Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We need to talk about Toronto FC because somehow, someway, Toronto FC just beat Lionel Messi and the Inter Miami 2-1 in Miami. No, this is not a drill. No, this isn't April Fool's. No, this is not a test. For 59 minutes, neither team could find the net. Then, record signing Josh Sargent decided he'd had enough. He took the ball, he scored, and TFC's up 1-0. And then just 3 minutes later, we got an even rarer occurrence. A Derek Etienne Jr. goal made it 2-0 within 3 minutes. 2 goals in 3 minutes. TFC Live was in dreamland. I think I yelled, "Can someone check the rule books? Does MLSE allow us to do this?" But then again, it's TFC. We couldn't make life easy for us. We had to let Lionel Messi pull one back in the 82nd minute. And as always, TFC Live was probably panicking. We've been here before. We know what's going to happen. But this time, they held on. Luca Gavarin came on and made 2 great saves late on. The defense stood up really well. And Toronto walked away with a massive 2-1 victory. And it's not just a win. TFC have now won 2 out of 3 of the last games. So this is becoming a trend. Toronto FC has suddenly figured out how to collect points, something rare for us. Tonight, we're breaking down the goals, the performance, and whether this is actually the start of something big, or are we about to feel like it's 2003 again and we're about to get punked? Toronto FC 2, Inter Miami 1, in Miami, against Messi and the referee. What the hell is happening? Are we going to start winning? This is TFC Unplugged. I'm Noel. Don't talk to me about airlines this week. And this is, as always, my co-host, Sean the Baddie Levy, looking pretty sharp today, buddy. Welcome.
Hey, repping Kings in the North today. I pulled it out.
Wow.
We haven't worn this in a long time.
I, we haven't had 2 wins out of 3 games in a long time. And here we are.
No.
We are back to winning ways. And yeah, if they'd have figured that crap out against Charlotte, like they did in the last 20 minutes, we could have had 3 wins out of 3. Are we back?
And well,
Because everyone keeps telling me we're back.
Well, here's the scary things. I guess we have to believe because we're technically in a playoff position. Yes, we're on the outside looking in, but we are level on points with Orlando, who have the last spot. So it's a massive game against a team, I mind you, that are 3 points ahead of us. So, yeah, we're kind of back. Like, I'm not saying back in the sense of back the TFC we know from that used to pack BMO Field, but we're back in the sense of a team that I think we can kind of like
trust
this
to
is
get
the
a
team.
result.
Well, but this is the team that when we've said it many times that on paper we're a good team.
Yes.
They're actually starting to play now, mind you, how they've had to play hasn't been pretty, but that also can be a sign of a team that, you know what, we can grind it out if we have to. We're not going to dominate. We can have next to no possession, but if we have to claw back, as in the 3-3 draw, and then this one, this being you took the lead, you're up 2, and you found a way to hold on. Because let's be real, we were all panicking after having back-to-back games where a key player gets a red card, right? First it was Mihailovic, then Zimmerman. And, when you looked at the starting lineup, you and I, who have been critical of him all year, sees Derek Etienne Jr., and we didn't expect anything from him. But the one game that he, when he's gonna do it, we needed him to, and that was against Inter Miami. And I don't expect him to do this again for the rest of the year. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be cold, but go look at his stats. Numbers don't lie. The 3 years he's been here, he's averaged 2 goals a year. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no,
So
I
I
just
think
put
that's a second.
I just put Pete's comment up there. Our guy Derek Etienne Jr. scores. Yeah, as you just said it to me before we came on air. He does this. He does score 1 or 2 goals every year. So this was his one shot, and there we go. It went in. No, I think you do have to, obviously really take it. Look, that's a big win. Look, do I think we're back?
It's
No,
a
nowhere
road win.
near it.
Road wins are massive.
But a road win away at Miami it is. I think they need it more than I think even we need it. I think the players need it to believe, right? To get on that step. I'm just gonna put up uh, a comment. It was still a way to go, but it is a good result. And I think you have to be happy that we've gone to Miami. We finally got a win there. We haven't had a win, and I don't know how long. I don't even want to look at the stats on that, right? So it is a good lift. It is a really positive lift. I will say this: Inter Miami's form is horrendous, though. They have not won in
Facts.
6 since the World Cup. Messi's dad's died. He looks uninterested and like unmotivated. It's also
I
he had
mean,
to break.
Suarez missed a sitter. Like
Yeah,
when you have a one-on-one and a player of Suarez experience is expected to finish, right? I mean, you would
yeah.
think.
You would think, but I think if you look at Miami as a whole, they've got issues everywhere. They don't seem to be a team together or motivated together. Messi doesn't look interested. Obviously, as I said, his dad just died. He doesn't look like he's fully like he should be playing. He's one of those guys that his dad's his world. Obviously Infantino's about to get kicked out, so there goes his Argentina career. So you know what? He's got a lot of things, and I think that team he carries that team at times. And I think at the end of the day, it was nice. I think for me because I was actually working because I was company event when the game was on, and it was nice to look down at my phone and see Josh Sargent got off on the score sheet. I think
Yeah,
he needs it more than anybody because I think when you start looking at Dorsch, who's been in sensational form since he arrived in Toronto, Sargent's not really been getting going for a while, right? So him getting on the score sheet and he had to make his own goal really. And it's a nice, the passing
mhm,
across and the cutback and picked his spot. That kind of he needed that moment where he actually created something himself. And we needed it, I think, because
yep,
one of the criticisms that we've said about this team and about him has, as DPs, we've seen Mihailovic in moments just change a game. We've seen Dorsch come in and change a game. And you haven't really seen a Sargent moment where he's come in and changed the game. And he did. And then to get the second goal really quick straight after, I think that really
that was
kind of
big.
made them, a little bit more like they believe that they can do this. And then, you look
Yeah,
at the penalty, you know what, they're always going to give that. Um, but I thought the last 10 minutes, because, I said to you, the highlights, if you go back and watch the highlights, they start around the 50th minute. It wasn't a lot, right? So at the end of the day,
yeah,
you look at the last 10 minutes, you look at the saves from Gavran, you look at the saves, the players blocking shots, and obviously we didn't have Walker Zimmerman and players like that, right? So I thought they did fantastic. At the end of the day, they really, really nailed it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. Yeah, I think well said right there. Kusovic, I think, is. I mean, we've talked how big he is. When we realized it when he was injured. And again, this is no shade on Monlouis. Monlouis is a talent, but he's young. He will, and the problem is with young players like that will make the mistakes. And the Messi goal is a prime example of that mistake, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because he let his eyes off of the player for a split second. But Kusovic, I thought he had a bit of an. I think a few players had a bit of an off game midweek. He really stepped up, and I think he realized how important it is that he's got to be on point. Him kind of stepping into that leader role in the back, and
Especially with
they
Zimmerman
were like
not
I
in
said,
that back line, he had to be the boss, right? Like,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think that's
and
fair
and
to
it,
say he was. I like his
yeah,
tone. I like the minute I knew that I liked him was when he clipped somebody upside the head as they walked past, right? I can't remember who it was. I think it was Franklin. He did the mistake and he just right upside the head. And I'm like, yeah, okay. He means business. And,
yep,
I think he is the difference in these matches. And I think at the end of the day, you need guys in that back line that boss that back line. I used to complain about it, but, when Drew Moore wasn't in the side, that back line was never like Chris Mavinga. We love Chris. But when
but
Drew Moore
he
was
he
bossing him around, or at the back
It
line,
kept
you
him.
knew was good. It kept him in his tone.
Yeah,
And then when
yeah,
he wasn't
yeah,
there, Bono didn't do it. And then Chris would be marauding upfield and you'd have those issues.
100%, hundred
And I
percent.
think we need that demanding, commanding presence at the back. And Walker Zimmerman's been fantastic. I think when both of them are together, we stand a far better chance of winning a game than anything because both of them are very solid. They do the basics really, really well. And I can't stress that
Yeah,
enough. And that is why you see that the difference is, yes, they gave up chances. You mentioned the Suarez chance, right? They gave up the chances. And then, Gavran came up with two great, great saves. Suarez, thank God, made a complete mess of it. So
yeah.
again, there was opportunities, but we dodged a bullet. They went into a difficult environment. They're in an environment where no one expected them to get anything, including us. I quite happily said that, we'll skip the Inter Miami. I think we can have a crack at NYCFC at home because they're obviously really decimated with injuries. I think someone's got that in the comments, actually. Yeah, we've got a really good opportunity this Saturday to go and get 3 points. And at the end of the day, I think from that standpoint that we didn't expect anything out of the game on Saturday, and so when we did get a win, it's bonus, and I think that's
I
how we have to look at it.
I went into the game. I went out for drinks with my friend, and she's like, "Aren't you? Don't you want to hurry up, go home and watch a game?" I go, I got time, and honestly, I'm not really going in there with a lot of positive. Like it's hard. We have not been well, especially on the road. So it was really hard for me to believe that we're going to go to, even though yes, I knew Inter Miami was struggling, but defense played well. Our midfield, even without Dorsch, I thought played real well, and I think that's something we need to touch on. Simorancic has looked outstanding over the past few 4 games he's played.
Three in a row,
He
isn't he?
looks like he belongs.
Yeah,
Like last year we saw him at the start. I think he was literally started the first game of the season, and then we kind of never saw him again. Maybe had a brief stint later in the year, but he was, and they were playing him, I think, as a wing back, if I remember.
yeah, he
Um,
played all he again. This is the problem. We've played him in about five different spots, but finally,
but
this is a spot where you can see, and I bet you this is what he's played most of his life. Do you know what I mean? So I
yep,
think that's what
yep.
I think that's what
They put let him,
natural.
yeah, and that's the key. Let him play where he actually can grow and develop where he's played all his life. And I saw somewhere, I think it was could have been on Reddit, could have been on X, where someone says, you know, Oso's days are, I think this is he's in the last year of his contract. You know, should he, when healthy, because he's basically always been a starter, should he come right back in? And most people are
No,
saying not the way Simorancic's playing. And then when you look at, you got another young kid in up and coming in Bostonberry, who is a real next young upcoming talent. Do you want to potentially hurt his pathway as well?
no, because you know what, and I'm going to be blunt because I get annoyed at the Oso conversation. Yes, he's been here a long time. Yes, he's a club legend. He's on my wall behind me. But at the end of the day, like the kid that's coming in now has been here since he was 11 years old, right? You've got to move on for the next generation. You've got to really, you can't play because he's been here, he's done this. It's no longer about that. We're not in a position where you can carry a player that's not at his best anymore. At the end of the day, we've said it for a long time. He should be on the bench and coming off late in games to either help close out games or to help win a game if you need something and get him in the box late. But Simorancic, I think most of TFC Live, it's fair to say, is you know he's proving that let him play, let him run, and let him grow into that opportunity.
And okay, to touch on Red Six's comment, because I actually think, and I mentioned this to you, that it wasn't a great game to watch. There's no way I
No, well,
would
I
say
told you
that
the
was a
highlights didn't start till
that
the 59th
yeah,
minute, right? So
right. It was not, and did we look disjointed? Yes, because again, it
mhm,
wasn't the same. Like you haven't seen the same starting 11. I don't think yet for 2 consecutive games,
yeah, that's fair.
right? And
It's a problem.
that
That's the problem for me, right?
yeah. So we're always. we've gutted out we've had 3 games where it's been massive. And we have to, regardless of how we've played, got a home win, a clawback draw, which in
We
all
shouldn't
intents
have
and purposes
got.
we shouldn't have,
Yeah,
right? But that's resilience. And we went on the road and took advantage of a team that's struggling. It's that simple. We didn't dominate the game, and we didn't have to dominate the game. I mentioned to you, I thought Mihailovic, he hasn't looked great. Something looks like
yeah.
he's just not,
Fit.
few turnovers, dribbling into traffic and not being able to get at, like, he again, if anyone saw something different, please jump in the chat. But I wasn't very impressed with, I haven't been impressed with him since we've come back from the World Cup break,
I haven't,
right?
to be honest, because he's been out for the year. I
Yeah.
don't think this year is going to be Mihailovic. I don't think he's going to be the player that we need during this. I might be wrong later. Somebody can quote me later, but I just don't think. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's because that injury really didn't give him a preseason, didn't really give him. Some guys that we see it in European football a lot, where when they miss the first half of the season, they can't really get going in the second, and then they don't get going till the start of the next season. You kind of see that in him. That's how I feel about him at the moment. To your point on the starting 11 hasn't changed because we keep getting players sent off. I think otherwise you would have had maybe 3 games in a row where you'd had the same lineup. And I think,
Well,
you know,
mine injury as well. Dorsch
yeah,
getting
and Dorsch's
unexpectedly
injury was
hurt, right?
that's a little different. And he did make 4 changes to this game, right? So, he guess again, but if you watch the game back, and obviously I missed it, so I had to kind of go back and watch the highlights, and I watched a little bit, and I went back and watched the goal on Apple, just so I could see the first 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, just to see how they played. Um, but I think if you look at it, right, you've got to this week you've got to then get everybody back. You got. I don't think Dorsch is going to be back, but I think you'll get Mihailovic back, and you'll get a few others. But I think you've got to go against NYCFC, and you've got to go and follow up this with a really good performance at home, because what we've seen from this club is they do this all the time. We're really good at getting a couple of things, then we start to believe, and then they go and lay an egg. And at the end of the day, is NYCFC's looks like Toronto from just before the World Cup. They're really down. I think there are 11 players missing this week in training. So they might get a couple back, but I don't think they're gonna. I don't think, again, like Miami, you're taking them on at the right time. If you're Toronto and if you want to make a statement, you go put your foot on the throat, and I think they have to do that to NYCFC on Saturday.
Yeah. No update on Dorsch. I believe what the initial was, it could be anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks with that kind of injury. So I think it's wait and see. We'll probably get no more closer to what, Thursday, Friday. And I think we'll do a preview show around sometime that way, that time in the week. Um,
Yeah, I think somebody said to me the Nashville game it would be a realistic timeline
there you go.
at the earliest.
So,
At the earliest. So that was,
right. They're
that's
not, and the
again,
fact that we
it
got
depends
another
what
good
it is.
result, they're not going to rush. We got the win on the weekend. They won't rush him back. I think they will be cautious with him. I think they realize he's too important to rush
Yeah.
him back. He might be that kind of player that wants to get out there. I'll throw on a face mask if I need to, but um, yeah. What kit am I wearing? I'm wearing the Kings in the North kit that we ordered. Was it? I No, you never got one, but I think it was like last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think the Kings had it 2 years ago, I think. Just a
Yeah,
fun TFC looking jersey.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
I do think at the end of the day, you know what, you got to Miami, and we said it last week on, because we didn't do a previous show with me being away, but we kind of highlighted it. There's never been a better time to take on Miami because they're in a hot mess. We know the guys from
yeah,
the Into Miami podcast, and they were just like, they sent me some emojis that were pretty entertaining. But like, I think at the end of the day, it's a result that you win ugly, and they've won ugly a couple of times in a row now. And I think we'll take winning ugly because at the end of the day, we haven't been winning. So
Yeah.
anyway we can get a win, we'll get a win. And I think they ground out a result. I would like to see Josh Sargent kick on this week. I'd like to see Simonsic stay in that position. I think he's earned it. He's not droppable right now. If Robin Fraser drops him, he needs to be kicked in the nuts because like the kid's balling. I think, don't rush Dorsch back because you know what? I'd rather have him if we're on the edge of the playoffs and you get into that last two spots. I'd rather have him for the playoffs than have him missing with more surgeries and all that kind of stuff, right? And again,
Yeah.
you're going to have Zimmerman back this week after his suspension. So you should have a pretty decent lineup. And you've got an NYCFC team coming into town that is completely banged up. What I would say, though, is this is a complete TFC trap game because we know what NYCFC likes to do when TFC is playing well. They like to start that fractious stop-start game and we
A little
react,
dirty,
and we've
long.
got
Yep.
way too many players that will get themselves sent off if they react. And we
Hey,
have to go into this game coming up really, really smart and sensible and not lose a player to a red card for a dumb tackle.
well, not only that, Zimmerman, he'll be back. He's one more yellow card away from being suspended.
Five
So,
bucks. $5, he gets to NYCFC and misses Nashville, which would be
oh,
just
like I didn't want to
you
bring it
can't
up,
get any more
but it's the
TFC than
reality.
that. That's what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
can't get any more TFC than that. That is absolutely what's going to happen. I can tell you right now. I can see it coming.
Yeah.
Wrap him up in cotton wool. Maybe take him off after score a couple of goals and then take him off. That's how
Just
you do it. Go out front foot on Saturday, full throttle. And it should be a big crowd because at the end of the day, the X is on this week, right?
well, I mean, the team has been playing well. You would assume that, like there's a little bit more hype for the club when you get like again, we're not saying they're playing well in the sense of dominating
Style.
performances, but
Oh
they're
god, the
getting
style is as ugly as sin,
point
but you're getting points.
7, but 7 out of 9.
Yes.
We didn't call that. Neither of us, but we'll take it. So you're back home on Saturday against, like I said, a battered team when it comes to injuries. If you want to be a playoff team and you want to be
Yeah.
legit and you want to continue the fan support that seems to be going on the upward ride, you got to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Sean, I
Three
do want
points
to
on
correct you.
Saturday.
I do want to correct you. We did say they'd get 7 points out of 6 games. They just got them early. just, just want
Oh
just want to point
God.
that out. We did say 7 points out of 6 games. But
No, but that was worst case scenario. Okay, so we can
yeah,
do better.
we
Okay,
can do better. We should do
because it
better.
only gets. Let's be real. It actually does get to, after this weekend. The next two games are mass. Like our opponents are hardcore. What, Nashville and who's the other team?
Chicago.
Chicago, right? Those are top. What, four in the East?
Yeah,
Two
Chicago's
of each.
Chicago's on a good run. Nashville looks unstoppable at this point. Look, get through those 2 games. Don't lose any players for stupid red cards. Don't lose any players for injuries. Get through those games. We have a real crack at getting into the playoff spots. Do you know what I mean? Um, I just think you've got to get through those 2 games. And if you get something out of those 2 games, that's a massive plus. But I think what you've got for the remainder, they're all winnable games. There are some really winnable games in there because everybody else in this lower half of the conference are a hot mess right now.
To answer Peter there, uh, Corbino's not the answer, but the problem is they don't feel Henry can do it. Even though Henry has way more pace than anyone else of our attacking front, but we have no pace. We definitely, like, one of the goals of this team in the future needs to be get some pace, and that's a winger that can outrun almost any defender that we go up against. Because that I don't disagree, but everyone knows my love for Henry, and I think he's a young talent that hadn't done anything to lose his starting spot, but they're paying Corbino a lot more money.
Yeah, with Theo, I think he's a he's got to just weigh in with more goals, right? I think ultimately that's kind of where the
Yeah,
criticism is
they're
kind of leveled at him. The assists and the goals aren't as productive as, and I don't necessarily think he's a winger. If I'm honest, I think he's one of those guys that can play inside center forward. That's why I said it the other week. I think in the 10 role. I think he's probably better to run across that front behind somebody like Sargent to try and link the ball up. I don't think his passing's the greatest, but I think he's one of those guys that you can play the inside forward role. And I just think he's not got enough pace. I do. I love. You've heard me all the time. I love watching guys like Anthony Elanga. Right. I just love those guys that absolutely. When you need a goal, you can just launch it long over the top and just let them run in behind and absolutely bury it. Right. And I think Corbino, um, is it's just not got enough pace. I just don't think he has the movement. And then he needs to, if he's going to play like that, he needs to make those passes really killer. And I think his
oh,
product
he
is missing
launched
that.
one.
Yeah, he's
He
missing that killer pass, right? That just can't seem to get it in there.
Yeah, he's not known as one to place a good cross into the box, right? Like to set up your target man. Um, like even when we look at the was it against Charlotte where, or I can't remember where, or no, that was the game that they won at home where thought he meant it and it was a cross. Like that was more of a fluke than anything else. Usually he's trying to score. That's why I
Yeah,
thought he was actually shooting because he
yeah, yeah.
doesn't really cross.
Um, I was going to put Calcius comment. Jaden Nelson's on his way to Bolton Wanderers. Just
Oh, good for him.
he's
Good for
clearly
him.
he's
You know,
clearly never been clearly never been to Bolton. Um, uh, I read. I'm going to just put Red Footy's comment up. Pretty much Josh's on-field interview shouted out the players and their effort, but said they're a long way off tactically or something. Just remember feeling it. A veiled comment on Fraser. I want to touch on that because I feel there's a couple of interviews lately where, and I said this, I think the players don't. I don't think the players have fully feel that Fraser will be here long term.
well, you here's
think
the thing.
that's I think that's what they get. I think you need a coach, and I think a guy like Sargent, who's not getting the ball, we've said it multiple times. I think he wants a coach that can coach that into the game plan. And I don't think offensively, Fraser can. And I think that will get louder if he gets frustrated. And I said this a few weeks ago. If he doesn't start scoring, he doesn't get more opportunities, and he doesn't start getting those chances where he can make a difference, he's going to get loud. And I tell you how this works: $25 million player, $1 million coach. The coach ain't winning.
I think you're slowly seeing that Fraser's been forced to be a little bit more attack minded, um, because that's not his mo. We've discussed Fraser being a defensive minded coach for forever. Um,
Do you think
Now, with that
Sargent
being
needs
said,
another player up front with him? Do you think he?
no, I
Because
just think well, I mean, if we play a 4-3-3, so you're not really gonna like he needs the ball. He needs crosses. Like first of all, you need a winger to know him and the winger to have worked together in practice where he's letting him know where he wants the ball, right? And at a certain point, you're gonna know, depending on if he shifts this way, he's going behind the defender, so up high, so that he can attack the ball down. Versus if he makes a different run where he's going maybe closer to the post, he wants something that low driving so that he can just flick it in, right? Or go across the keeper. That comes with practice and continuously of having the same guy on, for the most part, on the right side. Shallowy and him, I don't think again Shallowy's not necessarily cross-minded. He's more attack-minded as well. So maybe we don't have the right wingers, right? Because for the longest time, Shallowy was our goal scorer before we signed um Sargent.
yeah, I was looking at because I was looking at this the other day. So I just pulled it up because I had it. I was looking at it the other day. When Josh Sargent played for Norwich, they did predominantly play that 4-3-3 formation, right? But when you look at how they played that, they don't play it the way TFC plays that. Do you know what I mean? We tend to be more defensively minded and they're further out wide. Whereas at Norwich, they're a little bit more in tighter, almost like inside, like in between
not yeah,
yeah, you know what I mean, right?
the 18, yeah,
Yeah, they tend to be like offset to him. So I think he's looking for more of that style of forward.
shorter connections,
Yeah, that's
almost
it.
similar to the goal he scored where we weren't spread that wide, like, we went from one side of the 18 to the
Yes.
other 18,
That's
right? And
that's
that's where
exactly
he
what I'm
likes to
getting
work.
at. Yeah, when he's got that space to maneuver in and around the box, I don't think he's looking for that pass or he's looking for those wide balls to be whipped in. He's looking for them to come into feet. And I think when we and I'm thinking about the game we were at recently where, you know, Theo comes down and then goes across the goal, but Sargent wanted it pulled back to him. You know what I mean? I think that's
Mhm.
kind of more because of the way that he played at Norwich. And I thought TFC would try and replicate that again because ultimately, when you buy a guy that works in a really good system, and if Robin Fraser thinks a 4-3-3 is his best formation to get goals and still defensively be able to hold teams in defensive structure. I thought they would just copy more of the Norwich style to suit Sargent, but we haven't. Our wingers tend to be wider out, further back, and he's more isolated. Whereas I feel if you go and look at how he played at Norwich, they were a little bit more higher up the pitch, and they had essentially a double pivot in the midfield, right? Do you know what I mean? So it's an
I'd
interesting.
like to see more I'd like to see more of us play a 3-5, you know, either a 1-1 or 3-5-2 where they offset each other up front. Um, and but you need guys on the wing that can run if you're playing in a right. We don't
Yeah,
even Richie doesn't have the legs to kind of do that like he once did. Because I'm not talking about run for like 20, 30 minutes. You've got to be able to handle the offensive and the defensive offsetting each other, but knowing when to attack and when to not to, you know. And I think
I
we have a three center back that could make that work with Zimmerman, Kusovic, and Monlouis. And I think we wouldn't necessarily lose it on the defensive side if you had the right defensive midfield in front of them, like a Dorsch.
You know what? I do generally think if TFC played 4-4-2, they would win a lot more games. I generally do think if you can get a striker that can hold the ball up for a guy like Sargent and feed him in those pockets, like I think he'd score
A
30
real
goals.
target man like that, yeah. I mean, th- there'd be a lot of flexibility if you had a man like that because you could play multiple formations. You could play the 4-4-2. You could play the 3-5-2 versus on like because once you go the 4-3-3 only suits essentially like you have to have the right guys playing those roles. You can't really revert to different roles because if you don't have the right wingers and guys in the middle, if you go to a 4-4-2, it doesn't really work with the guy. Like
What I would
sometimes the
do though
right
is I would
players.
put Mihailovic on the left. I would put Mihailovic back on the left. I'd let Shalawi play on the right, and then I'd have a big man and Sargent playing off him.
Yeah, but we don't have a big man.
We need a big man
That's next year,
next year.
right?
Next year's like
You got to.
Lewandowski would have been bad. He's a big man. Um,
Oh.
yeah,
Anyway, that
I
we'll be
just,
talking about Lewandowski in a couple of weeks. Let's
yeah,
kind
I know,
of
but like,
ease off
I do think I do think you got to get him going, and I do think he needs to back it up again this week. He's another one that he needs to, strikers are they're like goalkeepers. They're a bit weird, right? They just start scoring in patches when they get going, and I think
Well, not that
definitely
weird.
goalkeepers are weird, man. They're all mental, um, all of them.
That is true. We are mental.
Yeah, you're
We are.
mental.
You would think after I broke my arm, I would never go back in goal, but I did.
I just like to say I broke a goalkeeper's arm. That's about it. No, but there. I think what I'm getting at is I think if you get a guy to, they need him to get going in this latter part of the season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, so yes. You know why
I
I'm
do.
not surprised? Because he hasn't played striker. He's played midfield,
Wingback,
wing
wingback,
back, but he hasn't played striker this year. So
right back on the
that's why he
bench.
hasn't developed and injured. On the he was also injured for a good chunk of the year.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot about him. Like,
That's right. He will as soon as we say, because remember, the first game he played for us, he went and scored. So we're all thinking, yes, we stole one from Montreal, and that was it.
no,
That
but
was
I
it.
think
That's the highlight of his Toronto FC career.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be blunt. Defensive coaches don't make offensive players; they make them
You're not
defensive.
wrong.
And it's. I take this because the NFL's like this. You see it in the NFL all the time. The quarterbacks that develop don't develop with a defensive coordinator. They don't. They just don't. They unless they've got an outstanding offensive coordinator that should be a head coach, that 9 times out of 10 they don't develop. And it's the same in soccer. It's the same in this league, particularly. They do not develop when they're taught to defend first, not attack first. When you've got a guy that wants to score 10 goals, then they will develop. And I always say this about one of the if you ever want to watch Premier League highlights, 1995 Newcastle United teams, one of the most entertaining teams you'll ever watch. Why? Keegan didn't isn't a attacker. He's a striker. He's a guy that wanted to score goals. The
Hey,
most entertaining football you will see in your life. When the holding six is scoring a bomber from 50 yards out against Man United, that tells you what it is. And I think when it comes to development of those, I think that's where the struggle is. You got a guy in that steadies the ship and holds the fort and plays for 60 minutes at 0-0 to then try and nick it late. That's Robin Fraser. He's not going to develop a Vilson.
yeah. Jeff Kidney has a question.
It's a good question.
Yeah, because I know there was a rumor signing from was it a team in Argentina that
Santiago Solari. Solari's
yeah,
more of a winger.
yeah. But I know that that was the only rumor player I've heard that got rejected. I don't know if there was any facts to that. Honestly, I don't expect anything else to happen this summer. I really don't. I'm not anticipating this club to make any more
If no,
moves.
but if you go and get Solari, I think he can play the 8. I think, um, but I think Solari's more of a winger, if I remember rightly. Which
I mean, it's not
interesting.
that we don't have if he can play on the right, I mean, or the left, like, we can switch things up to suit his needs, right? But yeah, I Jeff, I don't see anything happening till the off season. And I think that's going to be a big question with regard to how exactly things are going to play out with the sprint season, then going into do they not make many moves for that and really kind of wait till the new season starts? Maybe see if these guys build more of a cohesiveness going into that short one. I don't know, right? Because
I
it
don't.
doesn't make sense making any big deals in January, February, knowing that you'll have come summer, you'll have the normal transfer window with the rest of, the majority of the soccer world, right?
Yeah, I don't see them adding anybody. I think they're going to roll with what they've got. I think they've got enough to punch a hole into the last 2 spots of the playoffs. And then once you're in, you're in. You got to ball out. But again, you gotta start turning the screw in terms of performance. Yeah, we've lucked out. You fought and gritted out a point against Charlotte, which I kind of think gave them a little bit more belief for going against Miami. But now you've got a game in NYCFC that everyone's now saying, hang on, you're not the underdogs anymore. You're the favorites. You're at home. You're on a good run. You gotta kind of go for it. Do you know what I mean? I think you've got to. I think you've got to go and put your foot on the throat and just choke the life out of NYCFC and tell everybody in the league, okay, we're building some momentum, we're getting some steam, we're going forward, and I think they have to do it. And as I said, this looks like a classic TFC trap match because I'm thinking they should go and win this 3-1, maybe 4-1. They got to start. They got to get going. This is it. They can't wait anymore. And you've done the hard bit now. You went and beat a team that you struggled to beat. You did it knowing that you're going to not get all the calls, and you know you were going to go against Messi. Now you're the favorites. You got to go and do it, right?
Hey, and to their injury plagued teams took advantage of us when we were injury plagued. It's time to say like no excuses. Like Saturday's game is a no excuse game. There is absolutely no reason for them not to go in there as the favorites in their mindsets and to not expect anything but 3 points.
Yeah,
Right?
and I don't expect anything like. We'll get into the preview show. We'll do it later this week, but I expect them to go out, and I expect them to be balls to the walls, full of energy, full of friggin' fight, to go and get a result and put them to the sword quickly, because I think they're there for the taking. If you let them hang around, you will get punished. And that's what we've done to teams this year. And what teams did to us when, as you pointed out, when we were injured, they finished us. And you've got to
Well,
make sure you're using your subs. You've got to make sure you got fresh legs, because those guys, they haven't got too many options on the bench.
hey,
You've got to run at them. You've got to wear them out.
no, there's no midweek game.
Yeah.
They've got plenty of time to make sure any little knocks that they may have picked up over the last week. You got a little moment to breathe before Saturday's game. No excuses. You can anticipate a pretty, 20 plus thousand on Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised. You've got the X going on. Knock on wood, we're gonna have good weather. Like, come on.
Yeah, I just want to mention this. One more likely out. I heard the other day, Cuello might be an option to be. Apparently, a few teams in MLS like Alonso Cuello.
Well, with the rise of Simarancic, right, with Dorsch here,
His game time's
there is an
dropping.
odd man out,
He's dropped. Have you
right?
noticed in the last six
Yep,
weeks?
yep, right. Odd man out, right? But I mean, I don't think that's again, he was never meant to be a number 6.
No, but I think he was always looked at as the eight, right? And then again, the guys played all over the park, because that's what we do. Um, if he ends up in Seattle, I wouldn't be surprised.
I put this way, if he does go somewhere, you know what's going to happen, right?
Oh, he's going to absolutely ball out and be an
A team's
absolute
going to
world
actually
beater.
play. Yeah, that like we know what it's like.
But
I'd sell him
he
to
does look
anywhere.
the odd man out now at the moment. If you go and look at it, though, right? We are agreed
Yeah,
on that, right?
yeah. I think he started last week mainly because of injuries.
Yeah.
You had no Dorsch, you had no Osorio, right? Because again, Simarancic had after the game he played midweek, you weren't dropping him,
No, God, no. He was
right?
great.
So he's not dropping this Saturday. If the only reason why Coelho will most likely start is because if Dorsch isn't good to go, and whether or not Osorio is good to go, he's not going to be game fit, and they
I
won't start him.
They won't start Oso. I don't think we'll see Oso. I would like to see Palacios.
He might get some minutes, right?
Otherwise we're going to start playing where in the world is Nelson? Because
Or
we like
who
to
in
do
the
that.
world is Nelson? Forget
Who
about
in the world
where.
is
Who is
Nelson?
he? Have we actually seen this player? Does he actually
Well,
exist?
we saw a cameo on socials, but again, that could have been AI. I don't know, man. It could be the TFC money laundering scheme, but I do think he needs to get in soon. Otherwise, I don't know. Like I think Calcio said it earlier. Like I think there's one or two now that you can kind of move on,
Yeah,
and I do think Emilio's not. They're not going to sign Emilio. He's on loan, right? I don't think that deal's getting
yeah,
done.
pretty sure.
Um,
Um, Before the fine, I want to talk Peters about start Henry. Here's the thing, Peter. If we had an offensive-minded coach, Henry would still be starting right now
I think
because
Henry's. Yeah, yeah.
he
He's
he
been.
he didn't do anything wrong to not to lose his starting job. It's just that the club sees more value or more upside currently in Corbino, whether it's financial investment or whatever the case may be. And since he's back, he's gotten that starting role, and Henry's just getting, you know, minutes here, if even getting on the pitch.
Um,
Do I think I'm disappointed in that? It is the way it is.
yeah, just this one. This one's easy to answer. So this is that rule. If you challenge the decision after it's been VAR'd, they're going to fine you. So in both their
So,
cases, that's what happened.
so if the club challenges or the players on the field challenge,
No, so if they've called it to VAR and then they've ruled it, right?
yeah,
Then you're the player is supposed to just accept it and walk off and argue it after the fact off the field.
but
When
not
you
on the
then
pitch.
turn around, like in Zimmerman's case, he followed the referee, I think 4 steps, and the referee had to turn around and acknowledge him. That's when that fine comes in. On the Mihailovic one, Mihailovic didn't challenge the call. He went over and called the referee a name, hence the reason why he got the fine on top of the red card. Do I agree
I
with it?
got
No, it's completely bonkers because you watch some of the teams around the world just like screaming for half an hour and they don't get fined, right?
it's okay. Well, Zimmerman, he didn't politely. He was frustrated when he was
Oh,
like,
Zimmer went back to the point that it would have never been a red card if they called the initial foul. That's what he argued with. Whereas I think Mihailovic just told the referee he's blind and completely useless or something. He That's what that rule is for. It's the idea is because if you saw it, the Premier League started this week. Um, the same rules have kind of been everyone's been talking about it. They're trying to get the speed of the game to be more flow and less stop start. And every time the ball goes out of play, or every time that we spend 5 minutes arguing about a call or a decision, the flow of the game's not good for the fans. Is what they're trying to do. So it's like, yes, you've got your card. You got to get off. Whether you like it, I'm not going to change my mind just because you want to have your say. That's kind of where the thought is behind the process. The idea is to keep the game sped up for us, the fans, to enjoy it
yeah,
more, not watch somebody having a temper tantrum. And let's be honest, there was too many, nonsense moments last year and the year before.
yo, I don't know if they showed it on the highlights. Honestly, Noel, I wanted to like smash in my TV when Richie got that yellow card. It was he did like he bare it was a soft foul, fine, foul. Not going to argue that. Then your favorite referee gives him the a yellow card.
Alan
Yet
Chapman,
when no, not Chapman, the other idiot there. What's his name? I mean, you hate them all.
which one? I got a few.
Oh, what's his name? He's the tall guy that he makes it all about himself. I think he was in the World Cup.
Oh
Think-
yeah, 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 yeah. Did the semi-final? Alpha.
Yes, 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 Alpha.
Oh, it's
Oh,
the
he
was it? Is it Alpha?
yes, and he is it Ephraim or I
Efren
can't remember.
Alpha. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first time Messi's ever lost under him. Wow, I'm
yeah.
surprised. Well, now I see why he got a penalty. Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
But
the
no, honestly,
Messi
it was the
protection.
soft. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was the dumbest call. Like honestly, it
it's
made no
Alpha.
sense.
Speaking of dumb
Even
calls,
Richie just had to be like, "You got to be kidding me!" Like he didn't even like yell or anything. I think Richie was so shocked that he got a card, like it made no sense. Like to the point where like he couldn't argue because he was just like, "This is no, I'm dreaming. I'm just gonna walk away because this can't be real."
that's
Right?
yeah, that's you know what, and I said that when
Bad.
at the start, like when it's Miami, you're always you're gonna get those
Oh,
cards that you don't get in
that was the
another
game.
game because
There
it's
was
the
a few of
Messi
those.
protection agency. That's really what it comes down to. The fact that he was even playing and after slapping, and I said this to I was talking to somebody, a Whitecap season ticket holder on Tuesday, and they're like, how the hell did Messi not get a suspension for striking another player? And any other player in MLS would be 1 to 3 games. I'm like, because it's the
It's
Messi
Messi
protection.
League Soccer,
Okay.
people. It's not Major League. It's
Yeah.
Messi League Soccer. He his
If they
they
announce that
can't,
Messi's not gonna be at that game, half that attendance ain't gonna turn up,
right? Like,
right?
come on, like, I remember watching the finals last year, and I felt Vancouver was the better team. Not that they necessarily didn't get, it was blatant calls, but I just felt like you just knew Inter's not losing this game. Doesn't matter how good anyone else plays, Miami's winning this game.
They'll always find a way
And
to keep them winning, right? And that's I think
it that's it, right?
yeah,
So I think that's kind of the mindset I had, like I said, when I was going into the game, not expecting much, but hey, I'll
we
take it.
won.
Three
We won a game.
points.
All
I
right,
think that was the
one
first time we've actually ever won in Miami.
it is. I have 1 point though. Dane St. Clair was back in goal and didn't make a single save. Um,
Yeah, he looked bad. Like that first goal, I'm not gonna say he just looked like his reaction on it was off. Can't blame him on the second goal, really. There's not much he could have done on that.
no.
I just felt like I said the first goal, like he looked like his diving, he dove too slow, and he looked like even when he was going, he didn't feel like he was gonna get it, so he didn't even like fully extend. I
Okay.
think Dane's in his head. I think once he lost the World Cup spot, it mentally messed in, right? Because I think he felt, and I can understand, he felt he was number one and didn't get it, and it's hard to get back. And then comes back from the World Cup, loses his starting job with Inter Miami,
Yeah,
right?
and it makes it even worse that that guy that they put in goal, like, let in 3 absolute howlers in 6 weeks, right? Um, so my last question of the night, because somebody asked me this, and I was like, "Oh, I would do it." Inter Miami
Yes.
will probably drop him this year, right? They will probably trade him away. That's what they do. At the
No.
right price, because he's not making huge money, but he's making good money. Would you take
Do
him
we
over
bring him?
Gavin? And if you guys in the chat, you guys are all watching, just if yes, no, maybe. Isn't it like so I was asked this, and this is why I'm asking it to you, because the person that asked me was a Whitecap season ticket holder. And I asked them if they would take him. They said no, they wouldn't because they like their goalkeeper. Um, but Dane at home,
See,
talent, young,
I,
he'd make less than Sean
there's a
Johnson.
it's not that I wouldn't want him. I just feel it would be a slap. Like, okay, here's the question: is who's our number two?
Yard, bro. Yard, bro. Whatever his freaking face
Okay,
is.
so that means right. See, it's funny. Like, how many people are like? Okay, so you're asking me as the keeper, or you're asking me as a fan?
Both. Would you
All
do it?
right.
Yes or no? Would you do it? Would you?
Yeah,
Would do
I
you
would.
think
I
he?
would.
The
Here's the thing.
question is:
Here,
do you think he has a
I
bigger upside than
he
Gavin?
does have a bigger upside than Gavin.
So then
He's
you
a
do it.
better goalie than Gavin. He's like there's no doubt about it in my mind. But the problem is what keeper would the offseason help come back home, clear his head? Would he most likely have a good start to next season? Yes. Right? Fresh environment, not having to I personally think the worst thing he did was go to Inter Miami. That
It was,
he
but
was not ready for that.
at the end of the day, you're not going to turn that down.
Right? But for a young keeper like that, that was the wrong move. But Gavin is not on his level. And I don't care what anyone says, trust me. You would have a keeper that if he can get back into where he is, there's very unlikely he won't be the number one for Canada in the next World Cup.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Like that's the other part to
And
it too.
that's not like he's still at that age where Kerpo won't be part of the conversation. Now, there's a young keeper that went back to England that is already looking pretty good. He's gone there with confidence of knowing that what's ahead of him and what doors are waiting
Yeah,
for him. Goodman is going to be chasing after it. So Dane really is going to need to, I think, requesting a trade, or if the club is open or brings that up, I think that would be the best thing for his career. And I would, if that means us taking him over Gabbert, I would. And I think we would be, that would actually be an improvement going into next season. He's a better shot stopper all round.
yeah. And ultimately, I think for me, I'm yes, because I think ultimately he has a bigger upside long term in terms of being the number one, being Canada's number one. And I think that just would sit well with me. But don't get me wrong, we like Gavin. I just think Dane has a bigger
And
upside.
I think Gavin still has upside. Um, but again, if you were to ask me the two, yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just reading the chat. just yeah, Calcio's got it. Just it would destroy Gavin's confidence. Yeah, it would, but
well,
I
here's
think, but
it would
you'd
if
have to
Gavin got
request a trade.
demoted to number two.
Yes,
It
you'd
would
have
if
to trade.
Gavin got demoted to number two. That's the key,
Yeah,
right? If he's gone to a new club, right, fresh environment, right. But
yeah.
that's the thing is that you bring in Dane, there's a higher expectation now. You're not going to be using the excuse, oh, his first year as as the keeper.
But that's Toronto. We have higher expectations. It's why we are so demanding as fans, because we have higher
Yeah.
expectations than most of the major league teams. Right? There's only what maybe 3 or 4 teams that expect more than us. Right? In terms of, well, I think for fans, I think we're the most demanding fans that are out there compared to the other ones. Right?
Also sometimes unrealistic, but yes.
Yeah, we are. We're unrealistic. I think that's fair to say. I'm completely unrealistic at times. I want a new manager, a new GM, and a new in charge of the entire club.
I want
That's
a new
not
stadium.
unrealistic. It's just a wish list. Um,
Yeah,
but at
fair
the end
enough.
of the
Fair
day,
enough.
I think in Toronto, like if you want to be a Canadian icon, you want to be like the next Craig Forrest and the guy that everybody knows his name. Toronto would be the place for Dane, right? But I just think, yeah, you'd have to move Gavin on because I don't think he could be number two, go back to being number two. I don't think that would be fair. And
He's
I
earned the
could
right to
see
start.
I
He's
could see
earned it.
Gavin in a team, like a West Coast team and be a really solid starter.
Yeah. There's no question. And reality is, in the right environment for a player like Dane, he probably isn't going to be in MLS for long.
No, if you get a good run out of him, good couple of years out of him, people will come knocking.
Like if I think if he had stayed in even Minnesota for another year, he might have had a European Cup. Well,
Absolutely.
I think Miami was again just the wrong move for. He's too young for that high pressure environment. Yeah,
I
I
don't think
get
it's
it.
high pressure. I
Spotlight.
think it's the way
I
that
think
defensive
it's not.
plays.
I think it's more than that. I think it's when I mean high pressure, you're playing with like in Messi has a certain expectation from everybody, and
Yeah.
you're walking into that. Some players thrive and can live up to it. It can hurt. Some players can it can intimidate them,
Turtle up.
right?
Just expression.
So
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
think I think everyone said it was the wrong move. I think I understand why he did the move because at the end of the day, the team that just won the championship has come knocking on your door asking you to play for him. You don't generally say no, and they've got money, and you can say I played with Messi, and and there's benefits to that. You're
and the
going to get
weather.
five to
He went.
15. Yeah, and at the end of the day, he's freezing his ass off in Minnesota, or he's in the sunshine of South Beach with he's going to get Messi and Cohen, the 12th man in the refs and Don Garber on his side. So it's a no brainer. You have a better chance of winning. But it was a good question this week from that I was asked when I was in the office this week, and I thought, you know what, I should bring it up because I do think the reality is he will be gone at the end of the season whenever their coach is
Yeah,
gone as well.
yeah, I think so. I don't, and I think, like I said, that probably is best for him anyway. So I think that's it for us when it comes to our recap against, us taking the 3 points on the road. Um, like Noel and I said, we will be back later this week to do our
Thursday, Thursday,
preview.
Thursday night.
There you go, Thursday night. Hopefully, we know some info on
Dorsch.
basically Dorsch.
Yeah,
We
Dorsch is in
really
him
don't
almost
care about
sweating
the
him.
yeah,
I don't
which
think
is
they're going to.
weird.
I
Like,
don't think they'll play him even if he is somewhat cleared. I think at
yeah,
the end they are going to rest him as much as they possibly can. We have enough weapons to do the job. We'll discuss that on Thursday. We'll be back at 6:30, I think Thursday, and then we'll preview the game, and then we will be back on Sunday to do the recap of that as well. So don't forget to like,
There you go.
subscribe. Thank you for all those that have been following us on all the platforms. Our Spotify numbers keep going up, and we're we really appreciate it. And Sean, anything else?
That's it for me, y'all. I will be there Saturday. I know Noel's not going to be there.
I'm on a cruise.
Yeah,
Like,
family responsibilities, eh?
it's birthday. It's a birthday cruise. Not
There you
my
go.
birthday. It's somebody else's birthday. So I'll be watching the game from behind you on Lake Ontario on a boat. So if you all look out and see some bunch of idiots drinking on the water, that will be me. So
There you go.
I'll be watching with the binoculars.
Yeah, I'm bringing a friend. We're celebrating her birthday, so yeah.
There we go. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you all, and we'll be back on Thursday with a preview of the NYCFC game, and hopefully we'll have some more exciting news. Thanks for watching.
Positive news.
Positive news.
There you go. All right. See you guys.